once again about something that I had a previous video, and it is about how defining if your items are an antique. I got several messages, especially through Reddit and Facebook, telling me that what I told in the previous video, that is that you can consider as 1945 as a good date for antiques. It is grown and it's not correct, etc. Many people write that it is 100 years old, what you should take as consideration for antiques. And once again, I disagree. I want to explain you why I disagree. Well, first, still I believe that the correct date right now, for considering something is an antique is 1945, the end of the Second World War. One of the reasons, first, it is about generations. There are very few people from before 1945 that can really make certain amount, relevant percentage on the population, that can talk about how was living before 1940s, in the 30s. Let's think about the 30s. How was living there? How was everything in direct testimony. So it is very hard to find, in terms of generation, population, people from before the 40s that can really give you a good insider view about how was living there. When you don't have this kind of direct channels of information, you start to feel that there is a gap in generations, that there is really an obstacle for getting direct info. This is my first consideration, like why my first justification why I am considering 1945. The second is specifically about styles. Before 1940s, the concept about, for example, architectural style was quite different than after 1945. With the reconstruction of Europe after the war, the modern style, this clean style without too much ornaments, like what we call today modern style, appear extensively. Doesn't mean that before we didn't have modernism. We had the Bauhaus, and we have works from Mies van der Rohe and many other architects. But was after 1945, after the Second World War, that modernism start to be standard in the world. Like cities start to use extensively modern architecture, modern styles, modern objects of design, and modern graphic design, and of course the fashion, the clothing, the jewelry, everything changed immediately after the Second World War. One other reason why I think that after 1945 or after the Second World War is a good measure of a change, like it was a completely change in the Western civilization. It was also like the geopolitics of the world changed completely, and that's very important, because with the Second World War, the United States became like absolutely the superpower and the head of the Western civilization. And then you had the music, you have all the American culture start to be, and the American way of life start to be also like the standard, like the desirable standard in the world. So there is an absolutely radical change, a revolution between 1939 and 1940. And the Second World War was an absolutely radical change in every aspect of Western civilization. One of the criteria is that precisely because this change in values, in taste, many of the items that you will find made in the 30s are not likable to be trendy today. You cannot say this is retro, this is properly an antique. I will not wear these kind of things. I would not feel comfortable wearing this I will maybe look like, if I am in a costume, like a clown. And then if you take things from the 60s, you will see that you still can find that they are wearable, that you will feel comfortable wearing them. But things from the 30s, 20s, I'm not so sure. I truly believe that 1945 was a complete change, a complete revolution, like a wave in the taste at every level of the Western civilization, and that is a proper date for thinking, look, before this, it is an antique. It is something that techniques, everything, all the process of production, and even all the levels of all the things related to wearing or using the items was completely different. So even if I am maybe not a specialist, I am not a member of any big group of society or museum, I think there's something about common sense, about what is making logic all these things. Some people told me that writing antiques for something from 1940s or 1930s is just a tricky marketing way to get more visitors in the stores. That's not true. I can tell you personally after years that writing antique 1930s doesn't change absolutely nothing in terms of traffic. I think that the change is more in terms of accuracy about the description of items. But just because you write 1930s doesn't mean that you will have a bunch of more traffic in your online store. So once again, I think that if you want to write properly, accurately something about what it is vintage and what it is antiques, I believe 1945 is a very good date. So this is what I want to say, maybe answering some of the comments I received in Reddit and Facebook. I hope this video was useful for you, and if you have any question, please write me. You can write a comment or just write me a message. Don't forget, I am from bobocollected.com. Thank you.